Hello.
There he is down
Morning.
in
Good
Virgin
morning.
Islands. Nice backdrop.
Yeah, don't you like that? I just got that for the first time there. You're the first interview subject where I've got an active background. Otherwise, it's just my boring kitchen.
You
So,
know, I should have you in my office. I actually have one wall behind my desk that has that environmental graphic
huh?
of St. John's over at
Oh
Trump
yeah.
Bay. St. St. John is
Oh,
beautiful, as you
oh,
know.
isn't it? Yeah, I went there just a couple of weeks ago for the first time, and I'd say that's as fine a beach as I've seen in my whole life.
Oh, it's
So,
beautiful. Yeah, it's gorgeous. And it reminds me when I'm working in the office of where a really better place might be.
well, that's true. You gotta keep that in mind, and that's what we're all working for. Um, So my guest today is the Reverend Dr. Robert Vernon Lee III, is the founding chairman and CEO of Fresh Ministries based in Jacksonville, Florida. Fresh Ministries is a nonprofit that, with a list of social goals, but is engaged internationally as well at the eradication of extreme hunger, among other topics and goals. I connected with the Reverend Doctor when his organization came to my island of St. Croix last week. As things finally start to happen after a multi-year effort to engage the community on food security and the territorial government. Um, Doctor, welcome to the Blue Continent podcast. And I want to thank you for joining me this morning. Are you in Jacksonville right now?
I am. I'm actually, technically, I'm in St. John's, which is next county down from Jacksonville. But yep.
Okay. Okay. And you've been established there for quite a long time. I gave a little introduction. Can you tell us about Fresh Ministries and your mission and your plans here in the Virgin Islands too?
Sure. You know, I started Fresh Ministries about 25, 26 years ago. I guess 26 years ago. When I was in parish ministry, I'm an Episcopal priest, as you know. And we were doing a lot of outreach and different things. In my former life, I had been an entrepreneur out in California, up in Lake Tahoe, and had different businesses, restaurants, some travel, that kind of thing. And when I got into actually into seminary at the Yale Divinity School, I started looking at how we were doing mission and ministry in the world and thought we might be able to do it a little bit better, just using basic business concepts, sustainable concepts where, you know, Brennan, typically in a not-for-profit, the leadership will spend, including the board, will spend about 80% of its time trying to fundraise and the other 20% trying to get the work done. And they're good people doing the best they can. And my thought was, if we could just change this a little bit and maybe run it more like a business where it's sustainable, then it would work. And so fortunately, you know, the rest of the people in the church, the ecclesiastical hierarchy got behind it and said, great, you know, this is what the church needs, et cetera. They didn't give us any money, but they said, go out and raise some money and see what you can do. So just by way of background, let me tell you what our first project was in Jacksonville, Florida.
Yeah.
It was a program downtown. We had a lot of people in, you know, homes for facilities for drug addiction, all sorts of substance abuse, anything, but we're ready for the next step up and there's no place to go. So in Core City, Jacksonville, we realized that not unlike other cities where there had been suburban flight, there were some beautiful areas that could be restored. And in our instance, an area called Springfield. So we raised some money, went in and bought dozens of these old Queen Anne Victorian homes. And then we hired a regular crew to restore them, but side by side with these folks who could be trained to be roofers, tilers, carpenters, whatever. And the whole point was to train them, assimilate them back into the workforce, give them something that they could do, sell the homes, try not to gentrify by using back-end subsidies and whatever other government like SHIP funds were available to get low to mid income folks in those houses. And so then it's sustainable. You know, we probably only had to raise about 3 or 4% of that overall program to cover the margins. But those are the kinds of things. And then you include as many partners as you can. We included the community college here, which is Florida State. Now it's Florida State College in Jacksonville. But you know, they've got building programs, et cetera. So when these folks got through with our route with our program, they could actually go on and get a degree from the college, and then go on to be licensed contractors, whatever. So that's the idea.
So it seems that especially early on, it was very much engaged with your specific community and all the different ways that you could help them grow and improve their skills and their economic standing, and improve their surroundings, the buildings that they lived in, for example. How
did that? But at the same time, we did international work too. Started at the very beginning an organization called Worldwide Pilgrimage Ministries, and so Brennan, if you wanted to go to the Holy Land, you and a group of people, we'd set it up, and you'd go, and all the profits, you go do the normal stuff, but all the profits went to on the ground mission ministry, whether it was in Tel Aviv, the hospital, or
well, that sounds great. I wish I'd done a trip like that, honestly, because when I went to Israel by myself, I ran into one issue after another, you know. So if I'd been a part of a group, I probably would have had a better experience. But so I see that, and it actually, I could tell. I'm glad that you mentioned your own background in entrepreneurship and everything, because I could see how after you finished, you went to school for journalism before, and then became a bit of an entrepreneur, I saw. And you're always engaged internationally. I guess the restaurant that you owned is still a global kind of kitchen back in Tahoe, is it? And,
well, that's interesting. I hadn't thought about that in a while, but yeah, we did international cuisine, and there's still.
And you ran other businesses where you imported, I suppose. It sounded like.
And before that, I had an import company importing out of Europe and the Middle East. Yeah.
And so you were always conscious of the global impact of things and trying to bring people together.
Yeah, you know, that's probably a result of my dad. He was an Army officer. We lived all over the world. We had contact with people, and we learned people were people, and there was a richness that was just to be enjoyed. It's delicious.
That must have had a huge impact on you growing up then. Yeah.
It did, and my parents were always really open to new experiences, different cultures. So we traveled a lot and got to enjoy just all the things in the world.
And somewhere in that, you felt the calling for the ministry then.
I did. You know, we were doing a lot of interesting things globally and in business, but you know, I'd always been very serious about my faith, and I should probably say instead my spirituality, and was always exploring that and trying to understand what was going on. You know, I was always cognizant of the fact that there is something deeply spiritual about our existence in the world and the universe, et cetera. So I was very interested in that. And at some point in my life, I guess in my early 30s, around 30, I said, you know, there's a lot more to life than just making some money and doing some traveling. So I wanted to go back and explore it. And at that time, I tell you, I really wasn't thinking I was going to be a priest. I was thinking, they were misguided enough at Yale University to admit me. And I thought, well, I'll do graduate work there and study, take some time out and think. And, you know, while I was a cradle Episcopalian, I had been, my spiritual studies had taken me, you know, around the world and far afield from, you know, basic Episcopalian concepts, but Episcopal concepts. But I came back to that and thought there's so much institutionally that we can do in the world, making use of the church and the concepts, the purity of the concepts. you know, so here I am.
So let's talk back about the Virgin Islands and how this project came to be and where it is now and where it's going.
Well, the Virgin Islands, you know, as I said in the beginning, we were doing a lot of economic development, even from the get-go, training people, et cetera. And that moved into even kids programs. We have 400 or 500 kids at any one point in programs here in Jacksonville. And while we're training them, mentoring them, broadening horizons, doing all that, we're also trying to introduce them to economic concepts and economic development practices that they might not otherwise encounter. So if these kids maintain a 2.5 grade point average or whatever, they get summer jobs, and and the summer jobs are great jobs. They'll be in offices, law offices, that kind of thing. And we do job training programs for people who've never graduated from anything. So they graduate from certificates, big graduations, and we get them jobs, hospitality, building, certified nursing, that kind of thing. And we do youth build programs, et cetera. But one of the most successful of the programs is the Beaver Street Enterprise Center, very creatively named after the street it's on. And, you know, that's taking people with ideas who might not otherwise be able to form their own businesses. They don't have the wherewithal, they don't have the background. If they have a good idea, we can help them get into business and get them set up. And we have wonderful people in this community who help with that, partners in law firms and CPAs and head of governments. And we've been able to bring governors in here, and we've been able to bring federal US secretaries from different departments, everything to show them what's possible and to connect the dots for them. So that's a very successful program. And in 2010, it was voted by close to 5,000 of these incubators around the world, but it was voted by the association as the #1 business incubator in the world. And so we were asked, actually, by the Virgin Islands folks, actually Small Business Development Center at UVI, and then the government itself, to come in and see what we could do about helping with unemployment. And, you know, the Havensa refinery was closed in St. Croix, a lot of people out of work, and unemployment was rising, but we couldn't take what we were doing in Florida and put it down there. So we started looking around and asking and doing what you do at that point. You get out to newsprint, you do a lot of community gatherings, meetings, and you just ask people. What do you
meet people, yeah.
Yeah, it's all about relationships and knowing people and joining at the heart, and then the head kicks into gear and you can figure out what to do. But, you know, the odd thing was, and I'd known this, I'd been visiting the Virgin Islands for many years, but agriculture, you know, in this beautiful place, you know, not enough agriculture. And, you know, the water is a real problem, and arable soil or level ground on St. John and St. Thomas is a problem.
They really complicate, any action you can take.
It really does. But St. Croix, my gosh, you know, that used to be the breadbasket of the Caribbean in many minds. But again, water is a problem, and all of that. It's just expensive to grow, and it's expensive to import. So we thought, well, let's give this a go. And, you know, oddly, the answer was right there on island all the time. University of the Virgin Islands is really they did more research and creativity in aquaponics than any other group that we've come across ever. So there it was right in front of us at the Ag Fair. I sent down 2 board members. I sent down 2 staff members. I came down with my chief of staff. We sent down 2 more people and went through their week-long course and thought, well, we can do agribusiness development here. And
what year was that you went to?
That was, let's see, that must have been 2013 about.
Okay, yeah.
So we've been working on this for 7-8 years.
Wow.
So we
So,
put together, we did what we do. We got grants and worked with the government, and ultimately got an economic development grant from the feds up in DC. And here we are.
that's amazing. Yeah, I've talked with a few groups on the island since our meeting, and really, there is a feeling among a lot of people that that your success is a reflection, will be a reflection of everyone's success, that making this project work. Because once you've received a grant like that, you know, depending on how, whether things are able to work out here and make this really beneficial for everyone, it'll be a reflection when smaller farmers also want to apply for grants. You know, they'll look back and say, well, Fresh Ministries had all the resources in the world, and you know, we got to see them succeed so that they also get a chance too when they want to go for that kind of funding. So everybody's in on you. We all want you to succeed, you know.
Well, and we do too, you know, and I couldn't agree with you more, or them, in terms of community, because if we can't do this together, it just can't be done. You know, we have to rely on each other, trust one another,
Right.
and we can do that. You know, it's
Sure.
the people in your newly adopted home are just, as you know, wonderful folks, and you know, they're protective of their homes and their islands, and they should be. But you know, when you get to know them and you join ranks, it's wonderful what can happen. So, and each of us does our part. You know, there are farmers who are farming in ways that we can't farm and are not going to farm, and
Yep.
we're farming in ways that some others are, but we may do it a little differently. But we do some things that other people can't do or don't do right now, or don't have the history or the expertise developed yet, like writing grants. So,
Right.
I mean, if we all come together, there is absolutely no reason why we can't write grants. They can facilitate the grants by being partners. We can. I don't know why we can't get desalination plants going, or cooperatives that are run with wonderful new software programs, or just different ways that we can lift up each other. You know, there's
smart engineering that all builds on.
There's lots of farming to be done, and together we can fill the needs. And you know, over these 7 years, I bet we've met with 40% of the folks on island, certainly, who have anything to do with farming. And, you know, there's such a huge need. I mean, when you talk about 97 or 98% of food being imported, it's just an astounding number, and it's wrong. You know, and I say we, I feel like I should be voting down there now. I've been down there so long. We need to be able to fill that void, and we can do it together.
Yeah, that's great. You know, I don't know if you remember, but last week when one of the times when you were talking, I started to raise my hand and I was going to ask a question, and then I put it down again because what you said right after that answered my question, and it was beautiful because you were talking about the resource that you have to grant write, and I was just about to say, could you share some of the grant writing resource, you know, with the other farmers around here? And you just threw it, that you offered that right there and said, we're going to be there to as much as possible help the local farmers. If they have a good proposal, a solid one, that's something you can offer. And I think that's beautiful. So I didn't need to ask the question.
Well, we need to do this together. You know, the wonderful folks at Farmers in Action, and they really are. These are some, you know, farmers with some vision who, you know, years back had the foresight to get a lease. And actually, I don't know how they did it. They're miraculous. They got a 50-year lease through the legislature. And it's an important lease because it's an historic piece of property, you know, where the old it was an old sugar plantation. There's a lot of history there. There are things that, you know, we learn from history, obviously, and we want to lift that up so that we don't repeat the bad things and we do the good things even better. And you know, they have the vision to have a commercial kitchen on site. They want to have a museum, a visitor center. They want to add different organizations, not unlike ours, that will make this place a real a tourist
Sure.
destination
A
to come
place to
see
stop
what's
in.
going on. I mean, we
Yeah.
also discussed, and I mean, it's just, this is all to their credit, and they've maintained this property for a long time, and we're honored to be there with them. So what we can do for a start is to help them get those facilities built, hopefully using dollars created through grants, and we just work together. But yeah, they're a great group, more with great vision, and there are a lot more folks around like that. We just need to work together.
I'm really glad that you pointed that out. That property, which is, in Bethlehem, ironic name for the beginning of a ministry outreach, right? Yeah. But so I'm affiliated with the Good Food Coalition of the Virgin Islands, and they're a great young group, exceptional leadership from Summer Sibley Brown. But also, I wanted to point out when our group discussed, when I first heard about your project, which I admit was a little bit late, honestly. I'm still catching up with everything around here.
Sure.
And when we talked about that property in particular, one of our members kind of went, because her first reaction was she has so much kind of bad juju with that property because of some of the history during the slave era and the plantations and all of that. But we all agreed that the idea of having a functioning cooperative coalition of your organization and island farmers, and putting it so that they have this ownership stake in the future of that property, where they're really creating a wonderful vision of the future, where they're directing what they want to see that happen there, and agriculture specifically, because of course it was sugar plantations and that abusive culture of the past, and replacing it with them determining their own future and being the beneficiaries of everything. That totally flips. I mean, it's so ironic. It would be a plot twist in a movie, or it follows this timeline of a storyline of a great novel or fiction, but it is reality, and so that's beautiful.
Yeah, it is wonderful, isn't it? I mean, scripturally, we're told that if you bring the light, there can be no more darkness, right? So that's what we do.
Yeah, that is great. So, do you mind talking a bit about some of the other international efforts that Fresh?
No, not at all.
Yeah.
So, as I said, we started with Worldwide Pilgrimage Ministries years and years ago in the mid-90s, because, and I think I alluded to this a couple of times already, but everything's about relationship in life. Creating those. If you get to know people, it's you're not going to like or dislike them if you really get to know them based on their religion, gender, nationality, creed, any of that stuff. It's just going to judge them on who they are, the content of their character. So, we started doing this because there are lots of issues in the world, and folks like Tom Friedman would tell us that the world is shrinking, and we're so tied together, inextricably tied together via internet, economy, and the rest of that stuff. But what's happening is that even as we get closer and closer together and get more together, our cultures are coming like this, and they're really repelling each other, because they're trying to defend, it would seem, territory or ideas or whatever. And I have to say, unfortunately, religion can often be the worst of these things in the middle of the culture. And
it is sad,
not understanding that we're all worshiping the same God and with the same directives to help each other, love each other, take care of the widows, all this.
Yeah.
So what we thought was, let's help the world be a little better, a little closer together on all levels. And a lot of people want to travel. So you know, if you're if you're a clergy person running a parish, you will get a lot of things across your desk from for-profit entities saying, you know, for whatever $2,000, you can come basically run where Jesus walked for whatever period of time, and then go home. And they do all this, and a lot of people go because it's, you know, they want to see what's happening, and it's foundational to their own religious beliefs, their own faith. So we thought, well, we could do this, but we could do it not for profit, join people together and try and take the glass of the tour bus out from between the people. So that, Brennan, if you were on one of these trips, you'd expect to go see the things, go to a kibbutz and stand the Sea of Galilee and go up to Caesarea Philippi and come down the Jordanian River Valley and go up to Jericho. Right. But all of those places, you're going to be with people. And like we have an imam come one night and talk about the basic tenets of Islam, and then it means love. And we have a Jewish rabbi come, we have a Palestinian Christian come. Another night, you go into people's homes, you just get to know them. And at the same time, you get to see those things that are foundational to your faith. But the difference would be, so part of that trip is you go to, and one of the stops is an ophthalmological hospital in Tel Aviv. Another one is an orphanage in Jerusalem. The others are refugee camps in Gaza or Ramallah. And you get to choose. If that trip was $2,000, and we'll tell you, 1,700 were hard costs after, you know, everybody was, you know, people were paid. So we run it as a not-for-profit, and those $300, you and the rest of the crew on this trip get to bundle it and say where you want it to go, any one of these places. Okay. So we try and build these bridges between you and the folks over there.
Because as you said, relationships are everything, right? And so you build that connection.
And so now, you know, that's been going on for a long time. And I think we're in 22 countries now doing that. Wow. And so we started doing that. We'd been in Africa for a while. Because of the unique relationship that we had with the government, doing things that the church doesn't ordinarily do. When President Bush II, W, created his, and this actually, he did do a good job of this, the PEPFAR program, President's Emergency Plan for AIDS Relief in 15
I got to teach PEPFAR actually when I was in Ukraine as a Peace Corps volunteer.
Oh,
I had a couple of workshops where I taught the young people in my community all about it. It's a great program.
Yeah, it was a great program, and they put enough money into it. They had $30 billion with a B in there for the entirety of the program, and in 15 countries, 2 in the Caribbean. I think Haiti and Guyana were the 2 in the Caribbean. The rest were sub-Saharan Africa. But I got a call from the head of USAID who said, you know, can you come to DC? Man, you know, we've dealt with a lot of government agencies, but not USAID, but some other, the folks in the White House Faith-Based Initiative contacted this guy, he contacted them and said, you know, you could use these guys, not because Fresh Ministries is such a huge thing, but because they saw us as a part of an infrastructure, a delivery system that we could direct. And that delivery system was the Anglican Communion. And, you know, I hadn't, honestly, that took me by surprise. I hadn't thought about just what the Anglican Communion could do. And so we went up and they said, the president's going to do this AIDS thing. We'd like you to have some track 1 funding. You're going to have to write a grant and do all this. I said, no, it's not what we do. And I got on a plane and went home. And I thought on the plane, this is exactly what we should do. It's exactly what the church should be doing. And so got our group together. We talked about it, and you know, knew we'd need some partners. I called Archbishop Njango Ndukane in Cape Town. He had succeeded Desmond Tutu there as the Archbishop of the 6 southernmost sub-Saharan countries. And he said, come on over. And we talked, and I said, do you want to do this? Because we'd have to do it together. And he said, absolutely. I said, okay, what are we going to do? And he said words that have guided a lot of what we've done. He doesn't always get as much credit, certainly in the following in the footsteps of Desmond Tutu, but
Right.
he said, you know, if we're going to end AIDS in Africa, we're going to raise up a generation of kids in Africa who don't have AIDS. We're going to do it through education. And education, as you know, Brennan, is huge in everything. All these different things, economic development, housing, safety, environmental, all of it, the core of it.
Health and nutrition as well, right?
Yeah, and you teach about that. And when you do that, you know, people can do anything. So anyway, we ended up getting the grant, and we ran the grant for, actually it was a 5-year grant that extended to 6. You know, we went after it very seriously. Set up some wonderful programs. Our partners on the ground there were just terrific. And that's the beauty of what we can do with the church also, is it becomes a local initiative. It's not—
Where was this operation? Was it?
Well, it was in South Africa, Namibia, and Mozambique. And so, and what we did was we used the Anglican Church. We trained, it was a peer-to-peer program. We trained young people, 19, 20 years old, probably the same kind of stuff that you were teaching. And they went and set up classes. We commissioned them actually at the altars of the churches, and they're still running. But in the 6-year period, Harvard did the monitoring evaluation, and they reported back to the White House. And W's last 2 weeks, they had a big event celebrating his best initiatives. And this was named as one of the 5 best initiatives that in his 8 years.
That's great. Yeah.
Saying that they had saved or impacted the lives of over 900,000 kids. So what that did was it showed us, as well as the rest of the world, how important the church infrastructure is. You know, it's locals taking ownership over it, locals who living in their own communities. You know, if we work together, again, in relationship, we're bringing stuff from the outside, possibly that they don't have access to.
Yeah.
They're doing what they do. We come together in trust, and in the church, it's easy because we're all sort of part of the same team. But
yeah,
that led to what we're doing now globally with the Desmond Tutu program to end global hunger with the aquaponics. Same idea, same development through the churches globally. Archbishop of Canterbury is on board. Anglican Alliance, Archbishop Tutu, obviously, he's just been great. I went over and met with him, and he said, yes, put my name on this. It's about education, economic development, and hunger and poverty, all the things I've fought for all my life. So and then we had a launch actually with him in Cape Town, and then another one in New York with his daughter preaching. It was a great thing.
Oh, wow. That must have been a memorable experience for sure. I was going to say that you're right to call attention when we talk about global development, that sometimes we forget that we overlook institutions that have a relevance to a lot of people. And yeah, just the existence of the Anglican Church there, it really provided that opportunity for the delivery system. In my case, I've used, so I've been a Rotarian for many years, and Rotary is just, it's so amazing because it was founded at the beginning of the 20th century, you know, and they to create an international organization at that time. I mean, it's hard enough right now to get somebody to respond to an email if you write them across the world, you know, sometimes. But to imagine building a multinational organization, a nonprofit like that. So I've reached out to people, even when I came here to St. Croix, I didn't know anybody. I did not know anybody in the Virgin Islands at all. And I, as a Rotarian, just reached out to a couple of Rotary clubs here on St. Croix. And not only did I find like people who shared a lot of the same values that I share in building community, but they were able to help me find a place to live. They were able to help me find just like a soft landing spot for somebody who didn't know anybody there. And that's such an incredible thing to know, to be able to just say anywhere in the world, I can basically find somebody who's probably I can just say probably a pretty good person who cares something about their community and shares that vision internationally. So,
Yeah.
you know,
And again, it's
that's what you did.
relationship again, right? I mean, they're welcoming, they embrace you, and yeah, Rotarians are unbelievable. And to eradicate polio and all the different things that they did in the world, just it's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I don't want to take up any more of your time. I know you're a very busy man, and I've really enjoyed the enlightening conversation with you. Certainly, we will speak many more times as this project goes forward.
I hope so. Brennan, thanks so much, and thanks for all you're doing too. I mean, you've had quite a journey, and I want to catch up with more of that as well.
Let's do that.
Absolutely.
Thanks so much, and have a great rest of your morning there.
Thanks. You too. Take care.
See you.
God bless.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.